That Metal Interview. You are in tuned and listening to That Metal Interview podcast, the fastest rising podcast on the planet, maybe. And anyways, thank you guys for coming back. We have another special guest, Steve Overland, frontman for the UK band FM. Yes, FM like the radio FM. They've been around for years and they do some badass music. And Steve is here to promote the band's most recent album, which came out April 15th, Frontiers Music SRL album by the title of 13. Let's listen to the latest track and latest single video from 13, a song by the name of Turn This Car Around. Let's check it out and we'll be right back with FM's Steve Overland.
Steering in the rearview
If you're an 80s fanatic, 80s rock fanatic, that's right up your alley and in your taste. Just like it is with me. I love 80s rock, 80s metal, and just 80s, anything 80s really is, I love all that stuff since I was raised with that kind of music. So let's go to the interview with Steve Overland, and let's talk to him. Let's chat about FM and the band's latest album, 13, with Frontiers Music. Here's Steve. Enjoy. So you guys are doing rehearsals?
Yeah, we're rehearsing now. We start the tour, well, the first one for 2 years, really. We start that in a week's time. So just getting prepped for it and getting a new set together. So exciting stuff, really, after all this time.
Is this for the May tour, or is this another tour?
The May tour's Europe, isn't it? We got Europe in May, we got the UK in April, which is the whole of April, and then we go out to Europe in May. So then hopefully America later in the year, and hopefully we can carry on and nothing stops us this time. That's what we all hope for,
Well, it's looking good over here. I mean, the masks thing and all that COVID thing's pretty much gone.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, out over here it has. It's just that thing where you never know. You know what happens if there's a sudden spike or whatever, they panic, don't they?
Yeah.
But luckily everything's going great at the moment. The ticket sales are going really well, and looks like the gigs are going to be well attended. So we're excited about getting on with it.
Awesome. FM's new single and video, Turn This Car Around. New album, 13, coming out on the 15th of April. Frontiers Music. Who wrote the music and lyrics for this album? Everybody. I mean, everybody gets involved in the writing with FM, Jim. I mean, with this record, because of lockdown, I normally come with a bulk of probably the initial sort of ideas for tunes, but because everybody's had more time, because obviously we couldn't tour, we couldn't do stuff, everybody's participated so much more in the songwriting for this record, which has been great for me because it's taken a bit of pressure off. And I think it's made for a really varied album. I mean, we've had quite a few songs in from Jem, the keyboard player. Pete wrote Turn This Car Around, and then I go in and just mess around with them a bit and maybe change the melodies a little bit and do my thing on them. But everybody's had a lot of ideas, so the songs have come from everybody for this record, which has been a real nice change. I saw the video for Turn This Car Around. Who directed the video for this?
A guy called Russell Charrington, and he's an old friend. He's a film director, actually. Yeah. And he was he did a documentary on Metallica out in the States, and he's quite a well-known film director. He's done sci-fi films, but he's a friend and a fan of the band. So we've done a few videos with Russell, and when we want to do something a bit different, we get him in and say, look, Russ, we don't want it to be all band, we want a bit of interplay with other stuff. And he's a real great guy, and he does film the stuff really well. It's quite cinematic, So I think he's done a great job. We're really pleased with it.
Very cool stuff, for sure. I'm an 80s rock fan, and you guys have an awesome style. I don't want to say Bon Jovi, Journey, Poison, but you guys have an awesome original style. Always have. So you guys sound like the 80s, really, to me, which is good. Do you deliberately try to sound like this, or does it just come out like that?
No, we don't. We don't deliberately try and sound like anything, to be honest. We kind of write a batch of songs, and sometimes it leans more towards bluesier rock, sometimes it doesn't. With this particular record, the first song that was recorded for it was Waiting on Love.
All these years of what this will do, it's alone. Please have it on my mind.
Which is very much old style FM, 80s sort of pop rock, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Heavy guitars, but very commercial song. And the one thing with the band, it's all about having the big choruses and the songs being memorable, So I guess that comes, as you've just said, that is very 80s orientated. You think of bands like Journey, you think of Don't Stop Believing, you think of Foreigner, you think of all those bands. They had that melody in those big choruses, which were hooky and memorable. So because we that's what we've always done, that's what we're about. You know, with the first thing we write for a song is a chorus, and then we work backwards, you know. So get the big chorus, and, you know, everything else tends to fall into place. Okay. So, you know, I don't think we don't deliberately try and sound 80s. In fact, we try and use sort of modern technology like loops and stuff like that and triggered stuff to make it sound a little more now when we make records now. But you're definitely right. I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that FM was, that we were born in the 80s, Jim. You know? So, you know, if we suddenly decided we weren't going to have that sound anymore, I don't think we'd have the fans around us anymore than we have, you know.
Right. So it's 80s style with a new twist, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's the one. That's great. It's a good description. We do listen to all types of music. We're all into different stuff, and so, you know, we try and use stuff from maybe even other genres of music. Like if you listen to a dance record, you'll have triggered percussion, you'll have things like that, and it makes a more interesting sounding rock record, I think, now as well. You know, we've done away with a lot of the big polysynthy sounds. You tend to use Hammond organs and pianos and stuff like that, rather than your great big CS80 and polysynthy 80 sounds. Still the same parts, but done on probably more sort of, I don't know how you describe, organic keyboards, you know? So, you know, just to try and bring it into what things are sounding like now, really.
Yeah, I'm from the 80s too, so to me it's just perfect, you know, so awesome. So,
that's great.
That was one of my questions right there. What kind of music do you listen to? What's on your playlist?
Oh, blimey. Well, everything. I mean, I like everything. I'm really into, I grew up with sort of soul music, really. That's where I came from. So Stevie Wonder is I've just done a record with a guy that was in the Crusaders, and a guy that played with, he's played with everybody, really. He's a famous session sort of jazz funk guitar player, and I've just done a soul record with him. And
oh, wow.
I love that music. I love like Songs in the Key of Life. Stevie Wonder is one of my favourite albums of all time. I love Free. I love Bad Company. Yeah. That kind of blues rock stuff.
Nice.
To be honest, funny we were talking about what you were just talking about, because I fished out Foreigner's Greatest Hits about a month ago, and I've got it in the car. Okay. And I keep putting it on. So I haven't listened to Foreigner for years. I mean, we toured with Foreigner about a year before lockdown. You know, we did a big tour with them and Europe and us, and so it was great to tour with them. We toured with them before. We did a bit of the Foreigner 4 tour back in the day. But you know, I listen to everything, really. I really like Americana music. I like bands like Rascal Flatts and Keith Urban, across the board. Across the board. And I think it's important. I think Ed Sheeran's a fantastic songwriter. You know, I like everything. You know, everything that's good, I consider to be good, I'll listen to, you know.
Very cool. I heard in another interview, you say you recorded about 5 different albums during the pandemic. Which albums are these, or? Well,
I did, it was really weird, Jim, because I thought when it first kicked in, we were out in LA, FM, shooting a couple of videos out there. We were going from LA to Vegas to shoot these 2 videos for the last album. And I thought for the first month when this kicked in, I loved it because I had no pressure. I wasn't on tour. I had a chance. I live in the English countryside. The weather was fantastic. But I then started, because I wasn't on the road, people started to contact me and say, look, will you do this? Will you make this record? Will you sing on this? And I've done, I did an album with Simon Kirk from Bad Company, the guy that played on, you know, all of that, well, the guy that was the drummer in Bad Company, which is great.
Cool.
A band called Lone Rider. Now, this is a different sort of album. It's like a 70s blues rock album.
Yeah, those were the days, best of our lives. Yesterday, heroes, you and
I. All recorded, just bass, drums, guitars, not loads of overdubs, stripped back, but it's a fantastic band. And if you like Bad Company and Free, you'll love the album. I did that one. I did this soul funk record, which is a retro from a band called Bag of Wire, which is a strange name, but there is a story behind it. But this is the guy that played with, he's played with Annie Lennox, he's played with the Crusaders, he's one of the top sort of voted European jazz guitar players. He's a guy called Tony Remy. If you look him up, he's played with just about everybody. And we've done this album, and it's like almost like an Earth, Wind and Fire Stevie Wonder record. We've got some fantastic funk players on it, and so I did that. I've done an album. I did a new Groundbreaker record, which is. Have you ever heard the Groundbreaker records at all?
Yes, I heard the last one, Soul to Soul.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of 80s, very retro 80s.
Yeah, very cool
rock.
stuff. Yeah, very cool.
You know, I did that record. I did an album that's due for release later in the year with a guy. This was a really interesting one. I was approached by a guy called Jim Mateus, who plays with a band called Fates Warning, which is an American guy.
Yes, of course. Yes, I heard of them. Yes.
You know, and they're quite a well-known band out in America. He lives out in the States, and he just contacted me through a journalist that we both know and said, look, can you contact Steve Overland? I want to make an album with him. And Jim's stuff is like Jim's real heavy guitars, proper real heavyweight metal stuff.
Awesome.
Usually. But he wanted to make a record like that with my voice on it, like a Paul Rodgers, more soulful bluesy voice. And we did one song, and the record company absolutely freaked out about it. So we ended up making an album. And the band's called Kings of Mercia.
Oh, wow.
And it's a killer record, Jim. It's like, I've never made a record like it. It's the heaviest guitar sound you've ever heard in your life. We've got Simon Phillips on drums.
Nice, wow.
We've got some awesome playing on it. And it's kind of super heavy with big choruses and melody. You have to hear it to get the gist of it, but I think it's going to do really well. I mean, everybody's really proud of it, and we're really excited about it, me and Jim. So It's one to look out for. So I did that record, various sessions, and I did the new FM record. I mean, that was recorded in lockdown too. So 5 albums plus a few other albums where I did the odd tracks here and there. You know, so luckily I kept very, very busy during lockdown, and otherwise I would have gone crazy, really. You know, so.
Wow.
It was good. So lots of stuff in the pipeline to come out. I'm just trying to structure it so they don't all come out on the same month at the moment. You know, so but they're good, all great records. I'm really proud of them. So look out for them. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. You know?
Awesome. We'll be looking out for those albums. So now that you mentioned Groundbreaker, the last album you released was Soul to Soul. Great stuff. Can we expect another record sometime?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if Serafino and the record company want me and Ali to do another one, then I love making them because it's a chance. Jim, normally, my brief with Groundbreaker, when they approached me to make the 2 albums we've done, they said, we don't want you to try and pull away from the 80s sounds. We want it to be absolutely an 80s retro sounding band. Awesome. So I said, well, great, I haven't written an album that's totally that for a long time. They said, we want another Indiscreet, which was FM's first record, which was 1984. And I said, well, you know, I wrote it, some of it with Robert Sal from Work of Art, and some of it with Alessandro. And we totally went for the big 80s polysynth sounds. We totally went for the 80s fast guitar playing and all that kind of stuff, and big harmonies. And so Groundbreaker are all about being a retro 80s band without hiding. You don't like 80s melodic rock, don't buy a Groundbreaker record. You know.
Fair warning.
So yes, I mean, to the answer to your question, without getting too far off the track, I'm sure they're going to want to make another one. The records are really well received. They get great reviews, and so yeah, I'd love to do another one. I'd love to do another one maybe later this year. That would be great. You know.
Awesome. I love the song by Overland, Edge of the Universe.
Reaching out for someone to lead the
What's going on with Overland? Can you give us an update on that?
I can. Yeah, that's one of the albums I've forgotten about, actually. There's also that one.
Yeah.
which we've written. I'm writing that with Robert Sal. Robert's fantastic because you say to Robert what kind of record you want, and I wanted to make a kind of a Toto-y style record, and he's very musical and a brilliant guitar player and musician. So we've now got 11 songs for that record. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to start recording it properly. So the new Overland album is well underway. It's just slotting it in now to get it finished with all the other things that are going on with the touring and FM getting back up and running, things like that. But it will happen. It's going to be great. The songs we've written so far, I'm really pleased with. So, that's in the pipeline too.
Wow, you're just a super, super busy guy.
It's great, Jim. It's a lovely way to be when you've been doing it as long as me. To still be this busy is fantastic. I like working. I love it.
I've interviewed a lot of artists, and a lot of them are overwhelmed by just their one project, one band. How do you find the energy here for all these projects?
Well, the thing is, Jim, with it, they're all slightly different. So what it does is, for me, it keeps my career totally interesting. I get to play with different great musicians in everything I do. And my main target is not just to put out something this is what Steve Overland does. Like Lowrider's totally a different style of album. The one with Jim Mateus is the heaviest album I've ever made.
Nice.
I've made a soul record. I mean, it's just to keep different things coming out, and gives me a different chance to sing things differently and use my voice in different ways, and basically just keep it exciting. It really does.
So what's your inspiration? I mean, when you get up in the morning, and what inspires you to pick up a pen and do some lyrics and pick up an instrument, Do you know what? I don't know, man. I just get up in the morning and I've got work to do. And that's always the forefront of my mind, Yeah.
My wife's always, the only time that she ever gets me to not talk or live and breathe music is when we go away on holiday.
Yeah.
When we go away to Spain, or we go to wherever we go, I'll have to leave my phone in the hotel, and I'm not allowed to have anything to do with music for a week. And that is the only time that every day of my life I get up and, like yesterday I wrote a song for the Robert Sal record, and I'm always working, and if I'm not, I get bored, to be honest. I get bored. I have to have a purpose and some kind of musical thing to be working at, probably nearly every day, which is, as I say, to my family's dismay, it does drive them a bit crazy, to say the least. So.
That's awesome. You have an awesome story. You should do a movie on your life.
Well, I'd love to. If anybody's interested, I'll talk to Russell, see if he wants to direct it.
There you go. So, give us your best gig and your worst gig so far.
Oh, blimey, best gig. I would have to say, all through my career, I've played some fantastic venues. I mean, we've headlined the Apollo, the Hammersmith Apollo, which is a very kind of prestigious venue. I've done Wembley. I've done everything. I've done festivals, 200,000 people. But we got to play, about 4 years ago, I got to do the Royal Albert Hall in London, which is probably supposed to be, it's the most iconic venue in London. It's where Eric Clapton plays because of the acoustics. I don't know whether you know the Royal Albert Hall, but it's a circular building, and the seats are tiered all the way to the top, and we got to do it with Heart and the London Philharmonic Orchestra.
Nice.
And
wow.
It was just the most amazing sound and response and everything, and it was I've got a picture on my wall upstairs of the sold out gig at the Royal Albert Hall with us all standing on stage with Heart with her arms in the air, and it's a real fantastic moment for me,
Wow.
Worst gig, do you know what? It's a hard one because it will have been way back in my career when I was young, I remember doing a gig, I was in a band called Wildlife. That got signed to Swan Song Records eventually. But many years ago when we started out, there's a famous venue on the Norfolk coast, which is the east coast of England, And we got booked to do this venue called the West Front Pavilion, which was a famous venue. And I thought, this is it. We've made it, you know.
Yeah.
When we got there, this was during the punk era. So we were like a prog rock band. We were like, yes, you know. And we were on stage with, we were on the bill with Generation X, all these massive punk bands. So
Wow.
we got bottled off, booed off. We only did 2 songs, but that is the most mismatched gig ever. Everybody had everything tattooed and earrings everywhere, and we walked on in loon trousers and played all this fiery rock. You know, so it didn't last long. You know, but that was a fairly bad memory. But I always sort of most of the gigs I always think they serve a purpose, even when you're doing them, the smaller ones, when you're up and coming, they're all a growing process, and the bad ones just help you to get better, you know?
Right, yeah.
So, you know, so for me, they all serve a purpose, and I try and make the most of all of them, really, you know?
Very cool. If you had a chance to redo or fix a part of your career, what would you do different this time?
Oh, blimey, another tough one. Well, FM made quite a lot of mistakes in the early days, and we didn't come to America enough. We didn't spend enough time there, and we toured this is when we were on Epic Records and CBS, and we toured the UK, and we kept trying to get out to America. Big regret for me, Jim, was the fact that when we were at the height of our career,
Yeah.
we had numerous tours booked in the States. We had Emerson, Lake and Powell. We had loads of big tours that never happened, and one of my biggest regrets is when we could have capitalized on the way we sounded and being the only British band at that point that really sounded like that. For love nor money, we couldn't get out there to tour.
Really?
And the time came and went. We were signed to Barrett and Solo, who at the time, bear in mind this is like the 80s, they managed REO Speedwagon, Survivor, Gino Vanelli. They managed everybody, and we were on the same management company at the height of those bands' career, but we just could not make any headway. And
Wow.
because we couldn't get out there, couldn't get out on the right tour, we couldn't get out there to play. And partly, I think that was because we were signed by the British record, or the British CBS Epic, and there was some kind of conflict on who was going to run the band's career.
Oh, wow.
You know, both sides of the Atlantic wanted to basically manage and run the band and say they need to be doing this. But because we were signed in the UK, they wouldn't let go of the band. They didn't want the American side of the label to take over.
Wow.
So the only people that suffered in that were FM, really. You know, really. So that's a massive, massive regret to every single member of FM's career. The fact that we didn't come out to America and tour when we were at the biggest we were, when we had Tough It Out and all those albums that we'd spent a long time tailoring for the American market. Things I wrote songs with Desmond Child, who'd just written Living on a Prayer with Bon Jovi and
Yeah.
You Give Up a Bad Name. So everything fell into place apart from we couldn't get on a tour to come out there and promote it.
Wow. Strange.
Massive regret, you know.
How about now? Are there any plans to tour the US soon in the future?
But yeah, well, absolutely. Well, we had everything planned. We were on one of the rock cruises that are going around the Atlantic, coming out to the States. We were going to do the cruise, get off, and do a club tour right across America. But then COVID kicked in, so it never happened. So at the moment, we're going to do the cruise, and the plan is to put a string of dates in and do as much as we can out in the States because I mean we played in Chicago, and every time we come to the States, we love it so much that we'll come out. If we're doing 2 shows, we'll come out for 2 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
just so that we can have a bit of time out there. I mean, of all the things that we would do, as I said to you, when COVID kicked in, we were due to shoot some videos for the Synchronized record. And we said, you know what? Let's go out to America and shoot them. Let's go and shoot in the desert. You know, let's go to Vegas, shoot in the desert. Let's have some time in LA. And go to Vegas and just have a good time. And we just went out there and shot 2 videos. That's all we did, you know, and just hung out and just had a great time. It's a fantastic place and great people. We love the States. We just, big regret is just not having enough touring out there, which is what we're trying to put right now, you know.
Awesome. We're looking forward to seeing you over here. Would you like to send a message to your fans listening to this podcast?
I'd love to, Jim. Yeah, I'd just like to say to all the bands in America, thank you for being so patient, because we want to get out there and play. We had a tour planned, but obviously with the way the world went and us all being locked away for so long, it never happened. But that's all being rescheduled. So thank you for your patience and your support. And we can't wait to come out to America again. We're really excited. So we'll be there. We'll be there very soon. So we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you for making time, Steve. Great chatting with you.
All right, man. Nice to talk to you anyway.
Don't forget to press the subscribe button and notification, the little bell for notifications and all that. You guys know what to do. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for downloading, sharing, streaming. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to support Mr. Overland's projects. As he told us, he has many different bands and projects lined up and in the past and so on. So go ahead and support Mr. Steve Overland, a great vocalist from the UK. And we thank Steve for making time for being a part of this program, That Metal Interview Podcast. And don't forget to catch him on the road. So look him up, look up their socials, and log on to their tour dates and all that. So support all rock metal, man. So anyways, don't forget to keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.